2 sleeping bags. That's what my mother pulled from the hallway closet, the cheap kind. The ones with cartoon dinosaurs on the outside that smelled like basement and mothballs. She didn't hand them to me. She tossed them. One landed at my 6-year-old's feet. The other hit the floor next to my 4-year-old, who picked it up and hugged it like a gift, because she didn't know any better. My sister watched from the guest room doorway, one hand on the frame, and laughed. Should have booked a hotel. I counted to 3. I always count to 3. Let me back up 2 hours, because you need to understand what we walked into that night. We drove 2.5 hours from Rochester to Maple Grove. Ryan took the day off work. I took the day off work. Owen wore his Thanksgiving sweater, the green one, with the little turkey on the front that he picked out himself at Target because he said turkeys looked serious. Ellie fell asleep 40 minutes in, clutching the stuffed rabbit she brings everywhere, and woke up when we hit the gravel driveway, asking if Grandma had cookies. I had a pie in the trunk. Pumpkin. From scratch. My father's recipe, the one with the brown butter and the extra pinch of nutmeg, he said, was the secret nobody earns until they earn it. He taught me when I was 14, standing on a step stool because I couldn't reach the counter. I'd been making it every Thanksgiving since he died. 4 pies. 4 years. I also brought a tablecloth. Ivory linen, scalloped edges. I ordered it 3 weeks ago because Mom mentioned hers had a stain. $46. I didn't think about the $46. I never thought about the dollars. Ryan carried the suitcases. I carried the pie. Owen carried the gift bag with the tablecloth inside. Ellie carried her rabbit. 4 of us on the porch, loaded up like people arriving somewhere they belonged. The door was unlocked. It always is when Ashley gets there first. Inside, the house smelled like Mom's pot roast, the one she starts at noon, the one that makes the whole first floor feel like a warm hand on your back. Coats on the hooks by the door, Ashley's red puffer, her daughter Mackenzie's pink jacket, her son Jordan's dinosaur hoodie, Mom's gray cardigan. 5 coats, 5 hooks. I hung hours on the banister. There wasn't room. The guest room door was closed. Mackenzie and Jordan were already inside, giggling, settled. Shoes lined up by the bed, suitcases unzipped, Jordan's iPad charging on the nightstand. They'd been there since Tuesday. Mom came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, smiled, kissed my cheek. "There's my girl. Oh, you brought the pie." "Set it on the counter, honey." She picked up Ellie and bounced her once. My little pumpkin. Then set her down and turned back to the kitchen. "Ashley, Lauren's here." Ashley appeared from the guest room in joggers and a sweatshirt that said "Blessed" across the front. No hug. She looked at the pie and said, "You still make Dad's recipe? I can never get the crust right." She'd never tried. Dinner was fine. Pot roast, green beans, rolls from the bakery. 11 of us around the table Mom had owned since 1994, the year Dad bought this house with a VA loan and a handshake. Mom said grace. She thanked God for family, for health, for the food. She didn't mention the tablecloth, which I'd spread across the table an hour earlier while she watched without comment. After dinner, I washed dishes. Ashley dried 1 plate, then said her back hurt and went to sit on the couch. Mom said, "Let her rest, honey. She's been having a rough week." Ashley had been having a rough week since 2019. It was 8:30 when the kids started fading. Owen's eyes were doing the thing they do half closed, fighting it, too proud to say he's tired. Ellie was already on the couch with her rabbit, 1 shoe off. I found Mom in the hallway. "Mom, should I set up the guest room for Owen and Ellie? I can put them on the floor in there with blankets, or..." She gave me the smile, the one I'd been seeing my whole life but had never, until that moment, had a name for. Warm on the surface, closed underneath. A door painted to look like a door, but bolted from the inside. "Oh, honey, Ashley's kids are already settled in there. You know how Mackenzie is. If we move her, she won't sleep at all." Her hand found my arm. Squeezed. "Your kids are troopers. They'll think It's an adventure. Then she opened the hallway closet. 2 sleeping bags. Dinosaur print. Nylon so thin you could see the floor through it. They smelled like the basement, damp and forgotten. The way things smell when nobody's checked on them in years. She tossed them toward the living room floor. One landed near Owen's feet. He looked at it but didn't pick it up. He just stood there, hands at his sides, watching my face. 6 years old, and already reading the room better than anyone in it. Ellie picked hers up, hugged it. "Is this for me, Mommy?" Ashley leaned against the guest room door frame, arms crossed, that half smile. "Should have booked a hotel." I counted. Coats on the hooks? 5. None ours. Photos on the mantle? 7. I was in the background of Ashley's birthday party holding a cake. Steps from where I stood to the front door. 14. The pie was still on the counter, untouched. The tablecloth was under the dishes. I knelt, eye level with Owen. Then Ellie. "Pack your things, babies," I whispered. "We're going on a real adventure." Ryan didn't ask questions. He read my face and started moving. Suitcases off the banister. Ellie's rabbit from the couch. Owen's coat from where I draped it over a chair because there were no hooks left. 4 suitcases. 1 pie carrier. 1 gift bag, empty now. I buckled Ellie into her car seat. She was already half asleep, still holding the dinosaur sleeping bag. Ryan carried Owen, who had gone completely silent, the kind of silent that 6-year-olds get when they understand something they shouldn't have to understand yet. Mom appeared in the doorway, porch light behind her, arms at her sides. "Lauren, don't be dramatic. It's just one night." I didn't turn around. I spoke to the windshield, but loud enough for the porch. "It was never just one night, Mom." 11:07 p.m. I watched the clock because I count things. Streetlights out of the neighborhood. 9. Stop signs before the highway. 2. Minutes before Maple Grove disappeared in the rearview mirror. 4. My mother stood in the doorway watching my taillights until I turned the corner. She didn't come after us. She never came after us. Have you ever driven away from a place you spent your whole life trying to belong to? I have. And I'll tell you something nobody warns you about. It doesn't feel like freedom. Not yet. It feels like math. Cold, simple math. The kind you do in the dark, at 70 miles an hour, while your children sleep in the back seat and your husband drives in silence. And you sit there adding up every dollar, every dinner, every drive, every pie you baked from your dead father's recipe, and you realize the total was never going to be enough. Because you were never the one they were counting. The pie was still between my feet. I hadn't brought it inside when we left, just grabbed the kids and the suitcases, and forgot the pie carrier was on the porch, until Ryan picked it up and set it on the floor of the passenger side without a word. So now here I was, 72 miles an hour on Highway 52 South at 11-something at night, and the whole car smelled like brown butter and nutmeg. My father's hands smelled like that. Not always, mostly he smelled like motor oil and the spearmint gum he chewed after lunch. But on Thanksgiving mornings, he smelled like brown butter, because he started the pie at 6 a.m. and refused help from anyone except me. "The house doesn't hold itself up, kid," he'd say while I measured flour on the step stool. He wasn't talking about the pie. He was talking about everything: the furnace filter he changed every 3 months, the gutters he cleaned in October, the mortgage checks he wrote by hand because he didn't trust autopay. He meant somebody has to do the work that nobody sees. And if you're the one doing it, don't expect a parade. He never got a parade. He got pancreatic cancer at 53 and died at 57. And the last thing he said to me in the hospice room in Rochester was, "Take care of the house, Lauren." He didn't mean the building. He meant the people in it. I was 25. I'd been a dental hygienist for 2 years. I made $58,000 and drove a Honda with a dent in the rear bumper from backing into a mailbox. 3 weeks after the funeral, Mom called. She didn't cry. That was the thing about my mother, she saved her crying for audiences. On the phone with me, she was all business wrapped in sweetness, like a bill inside a birthday card. Honey, I'm a little confused by the mortgage statement. Your father always handled this, and the numbers don't look right to me. Could you come take a look? I drove to Maple Grove that Saturday. Sat at the kitchen table, the same chairs, the tablecloth with the stain I'd replace 4 years later, and opened the folder she'd set out. The mortgage was $1,850 a month. Dad had refinanced in 2018 to pull cash for the roof, which extended the loan another 15 years. Mom's income: Social Security plus part-time church admin at Grace Lutheran. Total: about $2,100 a month. After utilities, groceries, and the supplemental health insurance Dad had carried, she was short by roughly $1,200 every month. I did the math on a napkin. Literally a napkin. The pen bled through and left a blue smudge on Mom's table that she wiped away the next morning without comment. "What about Ashley?" I asked. Mom's face did the thing it always did when I brought up Ashley and money in the same sentence. Gentle. Patient. Like I'd asked a child to lift a refrigerator. "Honey, your sister is going through her divorce. She's barely keeping herself together. I can't put this on her. Ashley's divorce was 3 months old. Ashley's marriage had been 4 years old. Ashley's pattern of starting things she didn't finish was a lifetime old. But I didn't say any of that. I said, I'll set up auto pay. Ryan, my boyfriend then, not yet, my husband, was sitting on my apartment couch when I got home. I told him. He put down his laptop and looked at me the way he looks at server logs when something doesn't add up. "Are you sure about this? She's my mother, Ryan. What am I supposed to do? Let her lose the house?" He was quiet for a few seconds, then, "You're supposed to be her daughter, not her bank account." I remember that sentence. I remember it because I didn't hear it. Not really. It went in one ear and filed itself somewhere in the back of my brain, behind duty, behind guilt, behind the sound of my father saying, "Take care of the house." I wouldn't find it again for 4 years. The ledger grew the way weeds grow slowly, then everywhere. Month 6. Mom called about her health insurance. Dad's employer plan ended at death, and the COBRA window was closing. She needed supplemental coverage to bridge the gap until Medicare at 65. The premium, $340 a month. I added it to the auto pay. Ryan watched me do it and said nothing, which was louder than anything he could have said. Month 14. The furnace died on a Tuesday in January. Minnesota January, the kind where your breath freezes before it leaves your mouth and the inside of your nose crackles. Mom called at 9 p.m. "Honey, it's so cold in here. I don't know what to do." I called an HVAC company. Emergency install. $4,200. I put it on my credit card and paid it off over 5 months. Ashley sent a text that night. "Thank God Mom's okay." 3 words and an emoji. Cost $0. Month 20. Ashley's divorce was final. She had custody of Mackenzie and Jordan and was living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn Park that Mom described as temporary. Mackenzie was in gymnastics, had been since she was 4, loved it, showed real talent. Diane called me. "Lauren, honey, I hate to ask, but the gymnastics tuition is $280 a month, and Ashley just can't swing it right now. Could you help? Just until she gets on her feet. Just until she gets on her feet." That phrase could have been Ashley's autobiography. I signed into the Maple Grove Gymnastics parent portal and added my credit card. Auto pay. Another line item on the spreadsheet I kept on my phone, not out of resentment, I told myself. Out of responsibility. I needed to know what I could afford. Year 3. The roof started leaking. Not dramatically, a slow stain spreading across the ceiling of the upstairs hallway, like a bruise that wouldn't heal. Estimate from the contractor: $14,000 for a full tear-off and reshingle. I put down a $3,500 deposit. Jim, the contractor, was scheduled to start the Monday after Thanksgiving. That same year, Ryan and I had planned to redo our kitchen in Rochester. New countertops, better lighting. Owen was 4 and kept bumping his head on the cabinet handles that stuck out too far. We postponed it. Next year, I said. We'd been saying next year for 2 years. I kept the spreadsheet updated. I'd open it sometimes at night after the kids were asleep, scrolling through the rows like reading a diary nobody asked me to write. Mortgage, insurance, furnace, gymnastics, kitchen reno I did for Mom, the backsplash, the appliance repair, the lawn service that one summer when Mom's back went out. Ryan came up behind me once while I was looking at it, put his hand on my shoulder. We've sent your mother more money than we've saved for the kids' college fund. I closed the phone. Just one more year. One more year. The universal prayer of people paying for love on installment. I was 9 the first time I understood my position in the family. Not with words, 9-year-olds don't have words for it. With a feeling, the kind you carry in your body before your brain learns how to name it. Dad was in the hospital. First cancer scare, they found something on a scan, needed a biopsy, kept him overnight. Mom packed an overnight bag for Ashley, pink backpack, her stuffed dog, her favorite blanket. Called Aunt Ruth to come pick her up. Ashley gets scared when things are uncertain, Mom said, zipping the bag. She needs to be somewhere safe. I was standing in the hallway, holding my own backpack. It was blue with a broken zipper. I'd packed it myself, pajamas, toothbrush, a book. What about me? Mom looked up. Not unkindly. But the way you look at a piece of furniture you trust to stay where you put it. You're my strong one, Lauren. You can handle it. Aunt Ruth came. Took Ashley. The house got quiet the way houses get quiet when everyone who matters has left and the person remaining isn't sure they count. Mom went to the hospital. I locked the front door, turned off the downstairs lights. Walked 3 blocks to the Petersons' house in the dark. Because that was the plan, Mrs. Peterson would watch me until Mom got back. 3 blocks. No streetlights on Elm. November dark. The sidewalk was cracked in 2 places and I stepped over both because I'd memorized them on the walk to school. I rang the Petersons' doorbell and counted to 10 while I waited. I didn't cry. I counted to 10, and I didn't cry. Mrs. Peterson opened the door in a bathrobe. "Oh, honey, come in. Come in." She made me hot chocolate with the mini marshmallows. I sat at her kitchen table and drank it, and didn't cry, and counted the marshmallows instead. 7. That was the night I learned. Ashley gets rescued. Lauren handles it. 20 years later, I was still handling it. The numbers were just bigger, and the walk was longer, and the dark was the same. The highway signs ticked past. Rochester, 38 miles. Owen murmured something in his sleep and went still again. Ellie's breathing was the slow, deep kind that means she was fully under. Ryan glanced at me. "You okay?" My eyes stung. Not tears or not exactly tears. More like something behind my eyes was pressing forward, trying to get out, and I kept pushing it back the way I'd been pushing things back since I was 9 years old. Standing on the Petersons' porch, counting marshmallows. I was 9, Ryan. I was 9 and I handled it. I've been handling it ever since. He didn't say anything. He reached across the console. I took his hand, squeezed once. That was the whole conversation. That was enough. But handling it was the only thing my mother ever saw me do, and I'd confused being needed with being loved. Here's what you need to understand about my sister. Ashley isn't cruel. She's just never had to be anything. She was the first baby. The miracle baby, if you believed my mother's telling 19 hours of labor, emergency cord wrap, a NICU stay that lasted 6 days. Mom told that story at every Thanksgiving, every birthday, every family gathering where someone new was listening. I almost lost her, she'd say, one hand on her chest, eyes shining. God gave her back to me. Ashley would sit there absorbing it like sunlight, and I'd sit there doing the math. I was born 3 years later, 7-hour labor, no complications. Nobody told my birth story at dinner. There wasn't one to tell. Ashley was the fragile one. Ashley was the sensitive one. Ashley needed protecting, supporting, buffering from a world that was apparently too sharp for her. And me? I was the strong one. Mom's exact word. Strong. Like it was a gift she'd given me instead of a job she'd assigned. So when Ashley's first marriage ended, after 4 years, her husband caught her maxing out credit cards on clothes she wore once, and vacations she posted about but couldn't afford. Mom said she married too young. She didn't know herself yet. When Ashley lost her first job at the vet clinic 6 months later, called in sick 11 times in 2 months, then told her manager the job was toxic, Mom said, "She's sensitive, Lauren. Not everyone is built like you." When Ashley lost her second job at the coffee shop, just stopped showing up one Wednesday and never went back, Mom said, "She's still processing the divorce. Give her grace." When Ashley lost her third job doing data entry at an insurance office, quit after 3 weeks because it was beneath her, Mom said, "She needs to find her passion. When she finds the right thing, she'll thrive." 4 jobs in 4 years. I kept count. Not on purpose, I'm a counter. I count everything. But those numbers lived in a different column than the mortgage payments. The Ashley column didn't have a dollar sign. It had excuses, lined up neatly, one per failure, all of them gift-wrapped by our mother. Meanwhile, I worked 5 days a week at the dental practice in Rochester. 8-hour shifts, my hands in strangers' mouths, scraping calculus off molars, explaining flossing techniques to people who would not floss. I packed my lunch. Turkey sandwich, apple, granola bar, $3.40 per day. I calculated once. I drove the Honda CR-V with 97,000 miles on it because Ryan and I agreed a new car could wait until the kids' college fund hit a certain number. A number we kept pushing back because of a spreadsheet on my phone that had nothing to do with college. Ashley, during this same period, posted an Instagram story every Sunday. Brunch with mimosas, fresh manicure, a candle that cost more than my lunch budget for the week. Caption: Self-Care Sunday. Her account had 400 followers. Mom was one of them. Mom liked every post. Mom never asked who was paying for Ashley's self-care Sundays. Mom never asked because Mom didn't want the answer to be the same person paying for everything else. 7 months before the sleeping bags, I paid for Mom's kitchen renovation. Not a full remodel, new countertops, a tile backsplash, updated hardware on the cabinets. $8,500 total. I found the contractor, picked the materials, drove to Maple Grove on a Tuesday, and spent 3 of my vacation days supervising the install. Ryan took off work to watch the kids. I slept on the couch. The guest room had Ashley's old boxes in it that nobody had moved in 2 years. I grouted the backsplash myself. The contractor was running behind, and the tile guy couldn't come back until Thursday, so I watched a YouTube video and did it on my knees with a rubber float and a bucket of sanded grout. My back ached for a week. Ashley arrived the day it was finished. Saturday afternoon, she walked into the kitchen, gasped, pulled out her phone, and took 9 photos from different angles. 9, I was still there, cleaning grout residue off the counter, and I counted every click of her camera. That evening, she posted the best photo. The kitchen glowed afternoon light through the window. Mom's copper kettle on the new countertop, fresh white tile behind the stove. Caption: Mom's kitchen glow up. So grateful she keeps this house beautiful for all of us. Number family home. Number blessed. 47 likes. Comments: Your mom is amazing. Family goals. That tile is gorgeous. One comment from Mom: My beautiful home for my beautiful girls. My beautiful home. Not Lauren did this. Not my daughter spent her vacation on her knees grouting tile. Just my beautiful home. Like it happened by itself. Like houses hold themselves up. I was sitting in my car in the driveway when the post appeared on my screen. Grout still under my fingernails. I counted to 10. Thanksgiving Day. The day of the sleeping bags. But before the sleeping bags, there was dinner. 11 people around the table. Mom at the head, Ashley to her right, Mackenzie and Jordan next to Ashley, Lauren me on the other side, between Ryan and Owen, Ellie in a booster seat at the corner, Aunt Ruth, Uncle Terry, Mom's friend Barb from church, whose husband had passed that spring and who Mom insisted needed family around her. The table was set with the ivory tablecloth I'd bought. The food was served on the platters Dad used to carry from the kitchen, the ones with the blue rim pattern Mom said were too nice for every day. The pot roast was Mom's. The green beans were Aunt Ruth's. The rolls were from the bakery. The pie was mine, Dad's recipe. Mom stood, raised her glass. Sweet tea, she didn't drink alcohol, which she mentioned at every gathering as if it were a spiritual achievement. I want to say how grateful I am for this family, she began. The smiling controller at her best voice warm, eyes finding each person at the table, pausing just long enough to make everyone feel seen. For Aunt Ruth and Uncle Terry, who've been our rock. For Barb, we love you, your family. For my beautiful grandchildren, who make everything worth it. She turned to Ashley. Her face softened into something that looked like tenderness, but moved like strategy. And for Ashley, honey, I am so proud of how strong you've been this year. You've had a hard road, and you've kept going. That takes courage. Ashley dabbed her eye with a napkin. She was wearing a new sweater, tags still on the little plastic string poking out from the collar like a receipt. Nobody bothered to hide. Mom turned to me. Last. The way you acknowledge the waiter before asking for the check. And Lauren, thank you for always being here. Always being here, not always holding us up, not always paying. Not thank you for the $88,000, the furnace, the kitchen, the insurance, the gymnastics, the tablecloth you're eating on right now. Just here, present, accounted for, like a chair. Ryan's hand found my knee under the table, squeezed. I squeezed back, 2 squeezes. Our shorthand for, I know, I'm here. After dinner, the kids scattered. Mackenzie and Jordan claimed the guest room like a fort door closed, giggling, the sound of an iPad playing something animated through the walls. Owen sat on the living room floor, doing a puzzle. Ellie was on the couch with her rabbit. Shoes kicked off, 1 sock missing. I washed dishes, the countertops I'd paid for. The backsplash I'd grouted on my knees. The platter with the blue rim that Dad used to carry like a trophy. 2 hands underneath, calling out, hot plate, coming through. Ashley dried 1 plate. Put it on the counter instead of in the cabinet. Then, my back is killing me. I think I pulled something carrying Jordan's car seat. Mom, from the living room. Oh, honey, sit down. Lauren's got it. Lauren's got it. The family motto nobody voted on. I washed the last plate. Wiped the counter, folded the towel into thirds, a habit from the dental office, where everything gets folded into thirds. Clean, precise, invisible labor. Then I went to find Mom about the sleeping arrangements, because it was 8:30, and my kids were fading, and I assumed the way I'd always assumed. The way I'd been trained to assume that there was a place for us somewhere in this house. I found her in the hallway, and she opened the closet. You already know what came out of that closet. You already know about the dinosaur sleeping bags and the basement smell and my daughter hugging hers like a gift. You already know about Ashley in the doorway laughing. You already know I counted 14 steps to the front door. But here's what you don't know. In the 5 seconds between my mother opening that closet and the sleeping bags landing on the floor, I looked at the mantel. 7 photos. Ashley's high school graduation cap and gown, Mom's arm around her, both beaming. Ashley's wedding white dress, flowers, the whole production. Ashley and Mom at the beach, one of those golden hour shots where everyone looks like they're in a movie. Mackenzie's first birthday, Jordan's baptism, a group photo from 2 Christmases ago where everyone is smiling, and one of me, in the background, holding a cake at Ashley's 30th birthday party. You can barely see my face behind the candles. 7 photos, one of me, holding something for someone else. I counted them in 3 seconds. I'd been counting things my whole life, but this was the first time the numbers told me a story I couldn't argue with. My mother opened the closet, and something closed in me. Rain started somewhere around Cannon Falls, not the dramatic kind, thin and persistent, the kind that makes the wipers squeak on every third pass and turns the highway into a long smear of taillights and nothing. Ryan drove. I sat in the passenger seat with my hands in my lap, palms up, like I was waiting to receive something I couldn't name. The pie was still between my feet. The whole car smelled like brown butter and nutmeg and a kitchen where someone once loved me without conditions. Owen and Ellie were asleep. Owen's head tilted against the window, fogging the glass with each breath. Ellie was buckled into her car seat, the dinosaur sleeping bag bunched up on her lap. She'd carried it to the car like a blanket. I didn't take it from her. I should have. I didn't. Silence. Not the angry kind. Not the kind where someone is waiting for the other person to speak first. The kind where two people both know the same thing and neither needs to prove it. Ryan's right hand left the steering wheel and found the console between us, palm up. I took it. Squeezed once. He squeezed back. That was the whole conversation for 30 miles. Somewhere south of Faribault, Ellie stirred. Her voice came from the back seat, half asleep, muffled by the sleeping bag pressed against her cheek. "Mommy, can we keep the dinosaur sleeping bag?" My chest locked. Not pain, something before pain. The way your body braces a half second before impact, when your muscles know what's coming but your brain hasn't caught up. I watched the mile markers. 47, 48, 49. "Sure, baby, you can keep it." She made a small sound, not a word, just contentment, and went back under. I didn't look at Ryan. He didn't look at me. The wipers squeaked. 49, 50, 51. Rest stop outside Owatonna. Ryan pulled in without asking. Maybe he needed gas. Maybe he needed me to get out of the car before whatever was building behind my eyes found its way forward. "I'll be right back," I said, and walked across the parking lot in the rain without a jacket. The bathroom was empty. Fluorescent light, the blue-white kind, that makes everyone look like they've been awake for 3 days. A mirror over the sink, spotted with water stains. Paper towel dispenser half empty. The faucet dripped in a rhythm I counted without meaning to. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I looked at myself. I was still wearing the earrings, the pearl studs I'd put on 6 hours ago while standing in front of my bedroom mirror in Rochester, turning my head left and right, making sure they were even. My nice earrings. The ones I wore for my mother, the ones that said, "I made an effort. I showed up. Please notice me." And standing there under that fluorescent light, rain in my hair, grout still faintly visible under my thumbnail from a kitchen renovation. My mother's Instagram followers thought happened by magic. I saw it. 29 years old. Dental hygienist. Mother of 2. Standing in a rest stop bathroom on Thanksgiving Eve because my own mother gave my children sleeping bags on the floor and my sister a bed. And I had spent my entire adult life trying to earn a seat at a table that was never set for me. Not because the table was full, because I was never on the guest list. And worse, Owen. My quiet, serious, observant boy who didn't touch his sleeping bag, who stood there with his hands at his sides, watching my face, learning, absorbing the lesson the way I absorbed it at 9 years old on the Petersons' porch. Some people in the family get rescued, and some people handle it. I was teaching my son to count to 10 and not cry. I took out the earrings, not dramatically, just reached up, unclipped the left, then the right. Held them in my palm for a second, 2 small pearls, warm from my skin. Then I set them on the edge of the sink, next to the soap dispenser, and walked out. I didn't look back at them. They were $40 earrings from a department store sale. They weren't the point. The point was that I'd been decorating myself for a woman who only looked at me when she needed something carried. Back at the car. Ryan had the engine running. Heat on. He looked at my ears bare now and said nothing. He knew. Ryan always knew. He'd been waiting 4 years for me to catch up to what he said on my apartment couch the night I set up the first autopay. You're supposed to be her daughter, not her bank account. I heard it now. 4 years late, in a rest stop parking lot in Owatonna, Minnesota, with rain on my face and my children asleep in the back seat. I finally heard it. Rochester. 22 miles. The highway was empty. The rain thinned to mist. Owen murmured something about turkeys and went still. Ellie's breathing was slow and deep, the sleeping bag rising and falling on her lap like a small tide. Home. 1:30 a.m. Our house. Small 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with cabinet handles that stuck out too far, and a countertop we kept saying we'd replace next year. But every light switch worked because Ryan fixed them. Every wall was the color we chose together. Every room had a bed in it. A real bed. For every person who lived there. Ryan carried Owen. I carried Ellie, tucked them in. Their rooms. Their pillows. Their blankets that didn't smell like anyone's basement. I sat on the edge of Owen's bed. He opened one eye. Are we home? Yeah, baby, we're home. He closed his eye. Gone in 2 seconds. Safe. The way children sleep when they know exactly where they are and who they belong to. I went to the kitchen, opened my phone, opened the spreadsheet. The number at the bottom, $97,340. I stared at it the way you stare at a receipt after a meal you didn't order and didn't enjoy. Then I closed the spreadsheet and opened the banking app. I didn't sleep that night. But for the first time in 4 years, I knew exactly what I was going to do in the morning. Black Friday. The rest of America was fighting over televisions at Walmart. I was sitting at my kitchen table in Rochester with a cup of coffee, a laptop, and my phone, about to dismantle the invisible scaffolding I'd built under my mother's life for 4 years. Ryan was at the stove making pancakes. Owen and Ellie were on the living room floor watching a rerun of the Macy's parade, arguing about which balloon was bigger. Normal morning sounds, butter popping in the pan, Ellie's voice climbing into that register she hits when she's certain she's right, the coffee maker gurgling its last few drops. I opened the laptop, opened the banking app. The autopay screen loaded with 4 recurring transfers listed in neat rows, each one with a date, an amount, and a recipient I'd been carrying, like luggage nobody asked me to check. The dental hygienist in me took over. Methodical. Precise. 1 tooth at a time. 1. Recurring transfer. $1,850 month. Recipient. Diane Campbell Mortgage, Maple Grove. Active since March 4 years ago. 48 payments completed. Total transferred. $88,800. Cancel. Confirm. Are you sure? Yes. Done. 4 years of payments. Gone in 12 seconds. The screen refreshed. The line item disappeared like it had never existed. The house in Maple Grove didn't know it yet, but the ground underneath it had just shifted. Tfo. Phone call. I dialed the number for Mom's supplemental insurance provider and waited through 3 minutes of hold music. Something jazzy and optimistic, the kind of music that doesn't know what it's soundtracking. I'd like to remove myself as the responsible party for Diane Campbell's supplemental premium. Can I ask the reason for the change? Change in circumstances. I'll process that now. The next premium will be billed directly to the policyholder. Thank you. $340 a month. 36 months of payments. $12,240 total. The woman on the phone didn't know she'd just handed my mother a bill she didn't know existed. 3. Text message. I typed it with my thumbs, while Owen shouted from the living room that the Snoopy balloon was definitely bigger than the Pikachu one. Jim, I need to cancel the roof project. Please refund the deposit to my account. Sorry for the short notice. Jim replied in 8 minutes. Everything okay, Lauren? Just a change in plans. Understood. Refund will process in 3 to 5 business days. $3,500 deposit coming back. $14,000 project gone. The tarp on Mom's roof would hold through the winter. Probably. And if it didn't, well, roofs don't hold themselves up either. 4. Maple Grove Gymnastics Parent Portal. Login. Account. Mackenzie Campbell, age 8. Payment method. Lauren Mitchell, Visa ending 4471. Autopay status, active. Remove payment method. Confirm, $280 a month. 26 months of payments. $7,280 in gymnastics tuition for my niece, paid by an aunt whose own kids had never taken a single class because the budget didn't stretch that far. 4 cancellations. I counted them the way I count everything, not because I wanted to, but because my brain doesn't let me not. 4. Total monthly removed, $2,470. Total one-time recovered, $3,500. Total lifetime investment in being invisible, $124,520. I closed the laptop, set my hands flat on the table, palms down this time, not open and waiting like they were in the car last night. Flat, grounded, done. Ryan slid a plate of pancakes in front of me. Sat down across the table. His face was calm, but his eyes were doing the thing they do when he's working very hard not to say something he's wanted to say for 4 years. You okay? I canceled everything. The mortgage, the insurance, Jim's roof project, Mackenzie's gymnastics. He was quiet for 3 seconds. I counted. Good. Not are you sure? Not maybe we should talk about it first. Not what about your mom? Just good. 1 syllable. The exact weight of a man who had been standing at the edge of this moment since the night I set up the first auto pay on my apartment couch, and who loved me enough to let me arrive here on my own schedule. She's going to call, I said. Yeah, I'm not going to answer. I know. Ellie ran into the kitchen, rabbit under one arm. Daddy, can we have whipped cream on the pancakes? Ryan looked at me. I looked at him. Whipped cream on a Friday morning? Our kitchen, our pancakes, our kids asking for something small and getting it without a committee meeting, or a guilt trip, or a toast where they'd be thanked last. Get the can from the fridge, baby, Ryan said. Ellie shrieked and ran. Owen appeared in the doorway. I want some too. Normal. Ordinary. Ours. I did one more thing that morning. Not a cancellation, a precaution. I opened the spreadsheet on my phone. 4 years of transfers, lined up row by row. Mortgage, insurance, furnace, kitchen, gymnastics, backsplash, lawn service, appliance repair. Every dollar documented, every date recorded, every payment confirmed with a transaction number. I took screenshots. All of them. Saved them in a folder on my phone. I named the folder Proof. Not for court. Not for social media. Not for the church ladies or Aunt Ruth or anyone who might someday ask what happened to the Campbell family at Thanksgiving. Just for me. For the moment, and it was coming. I could already feel it gathering like weather on a radar when someone would look me in the eye and say I didn't do enough. The phone didn't ring that day. Or Saturday. Nobody called. The system was still running on fumes, the last payments already processed, the next ones not yet due. My mother's life was still standing, but the foundation had been quietly removed, and she didn't know it yet. It rang on Sunday, and then it didn't stop. Sunday morning. I was flossing Owen's teeth. He hates flossing. Squirms like I'm performing surgery, but I'm a dental hygienist. And my children will have clean gums if it's the last thing I do when my phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. Mom. I let it ring. Owen looked up at me with the floss still between his molars. Grandma? Hold still, buddy. Almost done. The phone stopped. Then started again. I finished Owen's teeth, rinsed the floss, washed my hands, and picked up the phone. One voicemail. I played it while Owen ran downstairs to find Ryan. Hi, honey. It's Mom. Sweet voice. Warm. The smiling controller at full wattage, the voice she uses at church, at the grocery store, at Thanksgiving dinner when she's telling everyone how grateful she is. I noticed something funny with the bank, they said. A payment was missed? I'm sure it's just a glitch. Can you call me when you get a chance? Love you. A glitch. She thought 4 years of invisible labor was a glitch. I set the phone down. Didn't call back. 1. Monday. 4 calls from Mom. 2 texts. The first text, 9:14 a.m. Lauren. The bank called again. Something about the mortgage? I don't understand these things, you know that. Call me, please. I don't understand these things. She understood them fine when Dad was alive. She understood them fine when she opened that folder on the kitchen table and showed me the numbers and waited for me to volunteer. She understood exactly enough to know what to ask for, and exactly little enough to never have to say thank you. The second text, 2:47 p.m. Honey, are you getting my messages? I was getting them. I was also getting through a full Monday at the dental practice, 8 patients, 2 deep cleanings, 1 kid who bit my finger during a fluoride treatment. My hands smelled like latex and mint. My phone had 4 missed calls. I drove home, made dinner, helped Ellie with her letters, read Owen 2 chapters of his book, and went to bed. Then Ashley called. Not me, Ryan. His phone rang at 8:52 p.m. He answered in the kitchen while I was putting dishes away. Hey, Ashley. I could hear her voice through the speaker, not the words, but the pitch. High. Annoyed. The frequency Ashley operates at when something she assumed was permanent turns out to require effort. Ryan listened for about 30 seconds. Then, I'll let Lauren know. He hung up. Looked at me. Mackenzie's gymnastics payment bounced. Ashley wants to know if you forgot to update your card. I dried my hands on the towel, folded it into thirds. Did you forget? Not thank you for paying my daughter's gymnastics for 2 years. Not I didn't know you were covering that. Not even is everything okay? Just, did you forget? Like I was a vending machine that stopped dispensing and the only question was which button to press to fix it. What did you tell her? I asked. I told her I'd let you know. And? Ryan leaned against the counter. And nothing. That's between you and your family. I'm just the messenger. A pause. But if you want my opinion, I know your opinion. You've had it for 4 years. He smiled. Not a big smile. The small one. The one that means, finally. I took a screenshot of Ashley's call log, added it to the folder. Proof. Tuesday. The cracks opened. Mom's voicemail. 10:22 a.m. The sweetness was still there, but thinner now, stretched over something harder underneath, like fondant over a cake that's already starting to crumble. Lauren, I've called several times now and I'm starting to worry. The mortgage company sent a letter. They said the November payment wasn't received. And Jim called about the roof. He said the project is canceled? Honey, we have a tarp up there. The forecast says snow by Thursday. She paused. I could hear her breathing controlled, measured, the way she breathes when she's composing herself before walking into a room. I just need to understand what's happening. Call me, please. What's happening, Mom, is that the invisible person became visible by disappearing. What's happening is that you're standing in a house you thought held itself up, and the foundation just sent you a letter. I didn't call Tuesday afternoon. Ashley called Ryan again. He answered because Ryan answers phones the way he approaches server outages calmly, diagnostically, without emotion. Hey, Ashley. Her voice was louder this time. I was close enough to catch fragments. Mom is freaking out the mortgage. What is Lauren doing? She can't just... Ryan waited for the stream to slow. Then, evenly, maybe you should help her then. Silence on the other end. The specific silence of someone who has never been asked to carry anything and doesn't know what the weight feels like. That's not... I can't, Ryan. I'm going through a really hard time right now, and I understand. But Lauren's busy. He hung up. Set the phone on the counter. Went back to loading the dishwasher. I loved him so much in that moment, I almost forgot to count something. Ashley's text arrived 20 minutes later, not to Ryan, to me. The one she'd been composing since the call ended, every word chosen for maximum guilt and minimum self-awareness. Lauren, this is so unfair. I'm going through a really hard time, and you're going to let Mom lose her house? After everything she's done for us? I can't believe you're being this selfish. Call Mom. I read it twice. The second time I counted the words. 43. In 43 words. My sister managed to call me selfish for stopping payments she didn't know I was making. On a house she hadn't contributed $1 toward for a mother who gave her children the guest room and mine the floor. I didn't reply. I added the screenshot to the folder. Wednesday. The Cascade. It wasn't just Mom anymore. The smiling controller had activated her network, not with honesty, of course. Not by saying, my younger daughter has been secretly paying my mortgage for 4 years, and she stopped. That would require acknowledging the invisible ledger. And the whole point of the ledger being invisible was that no one had to feel indebted. No. She told them something else. Something shaped like truth, but hollowed out in the middle. Aunt Ruth called at 8:15 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Lauren, sweetheart, it's Aunt Ruth. Your mother called me last night, very upset. She says you've been distant since Thanksgiving and she doesn't know why. She's worried about you, honey. Give her a call? Distant. That was the word Mom chose. Not Lauren stopped funding my entire life. Just distant. Like I'd missed a few texts. Like this was a communication problem, and not a $124,000 one. Uncle Terry called at noon. Didn't leave a voicemail, which was merciful. Barb from church called at 3:17 p.m. Barb, who had been at our Thanksgiving dinner. Barb, who watched my mother toast Ashley's strength and thank me for being here. Barb, who saw my children without a bedroom and said nothing. Her voicemail was the one that landed hardest. Lauren, honey, your mother called me crying. She says you've abandoned the family. I don't know what happened between you two, but I've known your mother for 20 years, and that woman loves you so much. She just doesn't always know how to show it. Please call her, sweetheart. Life is too short for this. She just doesn't always know how to show it. The universal alibi of people who never had to be on the receiving end. Barb had watched my mother hand sleeping bags to my children and said nothing. And now she was calling me to say, my mother loves me. From the outside, the math always looks different. By Wednesday evening, the count was at 198. I know because my phone tracks call history, and I scrolled through it, while Ellie colored at the kitchen table, and Owen built something complicated out of Legos on the floor. 198 calls. Mom, 47. Ashley, 31. Aunt Ruth, 8. Uncle Terry, 3. Barb, 5. Numbers I didn't recognize. Mom's church network, probably 14. The rest were repeats, callbacks, voicemails that looped the same 3 messages. Come back, call your mother, don't be selfish. Not one of those 198 calls included the words, what happened at Thanksgiving? Not one person asked why I left at 11 p.m. with 2 children. Not one person asked about the sleeping bags. They didn't want the answer. The answer would require them to rearrange a story they'd been telling themselves for decades, the story where Diane was a wonderful mother, and Ashley was the fragile one, and Lauren was strong. The strong one doesn't leave. The strong one handles it. The strong one doesn't get to be hurt because being hurt is Ashley's job, and there's only budget for one wounded daughter in this family. Wednesday night. Diane's final voicemail. The one where the mask came off, not all the way, but enough that I could see the wiring underneath. Lauren, no honey, no sweetheart, just my name, flat and hard. I need you to call me back. Today. This is not a game. The insurance company sent a letter, something about a policy change. The mortgage is A breath. Recalculating. Lauren, I cannot lose this house. Your father would be... She stopped. The recording captured 2 seconds of silence before the line went dead. Your father would be. She was going to say ashamed of you. I knew it the way I knew that the brown butter goes in before the nutmeg. The way I knew that 14 steps separated the living room from the front door. The way I knew that 7 marshmallows floated in the hot chocolate misses. Peterson made me the night I walked 3 blocks in the dark at 9 years old because my mother sent me away and called it strength. But here's what Mom didn't know. Dad wouldn't be ashamed. Dad, who changed the furnace filter, who cleaned the gutters, who wrote mortgage checks by hand, who stood in the kitchen at 6 a.m. making pie crust and said the house doesn't hold itself up, Kid Dad would have looked at that spreadsheet with $124,520 on it, and he would have been ashamed. All right. Just not of me. I picked up my phone. Not to call her back. To text her one line, I'll meet you Saturday. Just us. Caribou Coffee on Plymouth Avenue, 10 a.m. I didn't wait for a reply. Set the phone face down on the counter. Went to the living room. Sat on the floor next to Owen and his Legos. What are you building? A house, he said, but the roof keeps falling off. I helped him fix it. We rebuilt the roof together, 1 brick at a time, and it held. Would you have answered those calls? Or would you have let them ring? I let them ring. All 198. And I'll tell you something, the silence on my end was the loudest thing that house in Maple Grove had heard in 4 years. Caribou Coffee on Plymouth Avenue. Saturday morning, 9:43 a.m., 17 minutes early. Because I'm a counter, and counters are always early. I ordered a black coffee. Sat in the corner booth by the window. Outside, the first real snow of the season was coming down, not heavy yet. Just enough to dust the sidewalk and make everything look like it was trying to start over. I set my bag on the seat next to me. Inside, 1 manila folder. 4 years of bank statements, every transfer highlighted in yellow. 53 pages. I'd counted them twice. 4 sugar packets in the caddy. 2 napkins under my cup. 1 folder in my bag. I didn't rehearse what I was going to say. I'd spent 20 years rehearsing conversations with my mother, scripting them in the shower, editing them in the car, perfecting them at midnight. None of them ever went the way I planned, because you can't rehearse with someone who rewrites the scene while you're still in it. So this time I brought numbers. Numbers don't rearrange themselves to make you feel guilty. Diane arrived at 10:02. Church clothes on a Saturday navy blouse, pearl earrings, lipstick applied with the precision of someone who treats her face like a press release, armor disguised as elegance. Hi, honey. I'm so glad you wanted to meet. I've been worried sick about you. Worried sick about me. Not the mortgage, not the money. The smiling controller's opening move reframed the crisis as concern for the other person. I got her chamomile tea, set it between us, and then I put the folder on the table. Not dramatically. I just reached into my bag, pulled it out, and set it down next to the sugar caddy. Manila, yellow tabbed. The most expensive ordinary thing in that coffee shop. Mom, do you know what auto-pay is? Her hand paused around the teacup. What? I opened the folder. First page. Mortgage payment. $18.50 a month. I set it up 3 weeks after Dad died. 48 months. That's $88,800. Next page. Health insurance supplement. $340 a month for 36 months. $12,240. Next. Furnace replacement. $4,200. Kitchen renovation countertops. Backsplash 3 days of my vacation. $8,500. Mackenzie's gymnastics. $280 a month for 26 months. $7,280. Roof deposit. $3,500. I closed the folder. Total. $124,520. Over 4 years. My mother's fingers were very still on her teacup, the kind of still that takes effort. The snow outside was thicker now. Lauren, Your father, always. Dad used to say the house doesn't hold itself up. He was right. You just never noticed who was holding it. I didn't know it was that much, she said. Almost a whisper. You didn't ask, she tried. The smiling controller doesn't go down without attempting a reboot. Honey, you're overreacting. It was one night. Ashley's kids were already settled. It was never one night, Mom. The folder was right there. I didn't need to raise my voice. It was every night I paid your bills and pretended it didn't matter. It was every holiday where Ashley showed up empty-handed and got the crown, and I showed up loaded and got the sleeping bags. That's not fair. I love you girls the same. You gave Ashley the guest room. You gave my children sleeping bags. You gave me the mortgage. That was your math, Mom. Not mine. She opened her mouth, closed it, set both hands flat on the table, the same gesture I'd made in my kitchen on Black Friday when I finished the cancellations. I wondered if it was genetic. This thing we do with our hands when we've run out of moves. What do you want me to do? The smallest voice I'd ever heard from her. I want you to know it was me. Every month, for 4 years, it was me. Not a bank, not a glitch, not an auto-pay. Me. Your daughter, the one you trained to handle everything and then forgot to thank. I'm not going to let you lose the house, I said. Dad bought that house, but I'm not going to be invisible anymore. Talk to Ashley. She can contribute, or you can downsize. Those are your options. She nodded, the kind of nod that means someone needs time to recalculate. And the next time we visit, if we visit, my kids get a bed. Not a sleeping bag, a bed. I stood up, left the folder on the table. Lauren. I looked at her. She was smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I was just standing up straight for the first time. Thank you, she said. For all of it. 4 years. $124,000. And the first thank you came in a coffee shop, after I stopped paying. I nodded. Turned. Walked out. Didn't count the steps to the door. In the car. Snow melting off the windshield in slow streaks. I called Ryan. How'd it go? I think she heard me. For the first time, I think she actually heard me. Good. Owen wants to know if we can get hot chocolate on the way home. Tell him yes. Tell him extra marshmallows. That evening, the snow had stopped. A thin white layer on the backyard, just enough to look new. I brought the Amazon box to the back porch. Owen and Ellie followed me like I was carrying treasure, which I suppose I was. I opened it and pulled out 2 sleeping bags. Real ones rated to 20 degrees, soft flannel lining, deep forest green with little silver stars on the inside. Owen unrolled his on the porch and climbed inside. Zipped it up to his chin. These don't smell like Grandma's basement. I laughed. A real laugh, the first one that came from somewhere below my chest, from the place where things had been pressed down so tight for so long that I'd forgotten there was room for anything besides numbers and silence. No, baby. They don't. Ellie unrolled hers next to his. Rabbit inside with her. Mommy, are we going camping? Yeah, baby. We're going camping. This spring. Just the 4 of us. Not a metaphor. An actual plan. A Saturday in April, a campground by a lake, marshmallows over a fire, no pie to bake for someone who wouldn't taste it, no tablecloth to buy for a table that didn't have a seat for me, no ledger, no auto-pay, no counting. Ryan came out with hot chocolate. 4 mugs, 4 marshmallows, each. Ellie counted them, and I let her, because some counting is just joy dressed up as arithmetic. We sat on the porch in the cold. The 4 of us. The snow on the backyard, catching the porch light and holding it, the way good things hold you when you finally let them. The house in Maple Grove was bigger. 4 bedrooms, a guest room, a mantel full of photos where I appeared once, in the background holding a cake. But sitting on my porch in Rochester, watching my kids disappear into sleeping bags they actually chose, drinking hot chocolate with marshmallows my daughter counted one by one, I finally understood what my father meant. The house doesn't hold itself up, kid. But neither do you. Neither do you. At what point does loyalty to your family become betrayal of yourself? I found my answer at 11:07 p.m. on a Wednesday night in November, driving south on Highway 52 with 2 sleeping bags in the back seat and a pie between my feet. But I think you already know yours. I think you've known for a while